What happens when a beloved fantasy star sits down for what should be a friendly morning interview, only to find himself defending years of criticism, career choices, and public perceptions in front of a live audience? That's exactly what unfolded when Kit Harington appeared on The View for a conversation that quickly became far more intense than anyone expected. Make sure to subscribe to the Star Talks and like and comment for more talk show coverage. The audience applauded as Kit Harington walked onto the stage, smiling and waving before taking a seat at the table. Whoopi Goldberg smiled. "Welcome back. It's good to have you here." "Thank you," Kit replied. "It's nice to be back." Joy Behar leaned forward almost immediately. "You know, every time you're here, people seem surprised by how different you are from Jon Snow." The audience laughed. Kit smiled politely. "Well, I suppose that's a good thing." Joy shrugged. "Is it? Because some fans love Jon Snow. They don't always know what to do with the real Kit Harington." A few audience members reacted with soft laughter. Kit chuckled. "I think that's probably true of most actors. You play a character for years, and people connect with that character." Sunny Hostin jumped in. "That role changed your life." "It absolutely did," Kit said. "There are actors who spend decades looking for something that meaningful." Whoopi nodded. "And some never find it." Kit agreed. "That's true." The discussion began comfortably. They talked about his recent projects, family life, and what it was like moving beyond the role that made him famous. Then Joy shifted the conversation. "Can I ask something that may sound blunt?" The audience reacted immediately. Whoopi laughed. "That's never stopped you before." More laughter filled the studio. Joy smiled. "Fair enough." She turned back toward Kit. "You've spoken openly about difficult periods in your life after Game of Thrones ended." Kit nodded. "Yes." Joy continued. "Do you think part of that came from being too identified with one character?" The room became quieter. Kit took a moment. "I think that's part of it." Joy continued. "Because some critics said your career never really reached the level people expected after the show." A noticeable reaction came from the audience. Whoopi looked toward Joy. "Oh." Sunny raised an eyebrow. Kit remained calm. "Well, critics are entitled to their opinions." Joy pressed further. "Does that bother you?" "A little," Kit admitted. "Anyone who says criticism never affects them is probably not being completely honest." The audience applauded. Joy nodded. "But doesn't it frustrate you when people say you've struggled to escape Jon Snow?" Kit shifted slightly in his chair. "I think there's a misunderstanding there." "What do you mean?" He leaned forward. "The idea that every actor should immediately become something completely different after a successful role is unrealistic." The audience applauded again. Kit continued. "People see a successful television series and then create expectations that may not match reality." Joy wasn't backing away. "But some actors do reinvent themselves." "Some do. And some don't." Kit smiled. "That's also true." The audience laughed. Joy smiled back briefly. "But where do you place yourself?" Kit answered carefully. "I place myself in the category of someone who's still working, still growing, and still finding projects I care about." Applause followed. Sunny nodded. "That's a healthy answer." Joy folded her arms. "But fans can be harsh." "They can. And critics can be harsher." Kit laughed. "Sometimes." Joy looked directly at him. "Do you think you've been treated unfairly?" A brief silence settled over the table. Kit thought about it. "Sometimes, yes." The audience reacted immediately. Joy tilted her head. "Really?" "Yes." "Why?" Kit remained composed. "Because there's a tendency to judge actors against expectations they never created." The audience became attentive. He continued. "I never told anyone I was trying to become the next major action star." Joy interrupted. "But people assumed that." "Exactly." Sunny nodded. "That's a fair point." Kit continued. "I never announced some grand plan. I simply wanted to keep acting." The audience applauded. Joy wasn't entirely convinced. "But fame changes things." "Of course. It changes opportunities." "It does." "It changes expectations." "Absolutely." Joy looked at him carefully. "So are you saying the public misunderstood you?" Kit smiled. "I'm saying they only saw a small part of me." The audience responded positively. Whoopi nodded. "I understand that." Joy leaned back. "But celebrities benefit from public attention." Kit nodded. "Of course. So doesn't that come with accepting public judgment?" "It does." The audience listened closely. Kit continued. "But accepting criticism and agreeing with criticism aren't the same thing." A louder round of applause followed. Sunny laughed. That's true. Joy smiled slightly. Okay, that's a good answer. The tension seemed to ease. Whoopi shifted the conversation toward acting. You've spent years performing in front of millions of people. Yes. What still makes you nervous? Kit answered immediately. Interviews. The audience burst into laughter. Even Joy laughed. Well, you're in trouble today. Kit pointed playfully toward her. I figured that out. The audience cheered. For a moment, the atmosphere lightened. But Joy wasn't finished. She looked at her notes. Can I ask one more thing? Whoopi laughed. That sounds dangerous. The audience laughed with her. Joy continued. Some fans online say you've spent years defending decisions made during the final seasons of Game of Thrones. The audience instantly reacted. A few groans could be heard. Kit smiled knowingly. There it is. Joy continued. I'm curious whether you're tired of discussing it. Kit nodded slowly. Sometimes. Joy leaned in. But you keep getting asked. Because people care. Or because people were disappointed. The audience reacted with a mixture of laughter and surprise. Sunny looked over. Oh boy. Kit remained calm. Both can be true. Joy seemed surprised by the answer. What do you mean? Kit crossed his hands. I think disappointment often comes from caring deeply about something. The audience applauded loudly. Whoopi nodded. That's true. Kit continued. People invested years of their lives in that story. Joy looked thoughtful. So you understand the frustration? I do. The audience quieted. But I also think sometimes the people involved in creating something deserve a little grace. A louder reaction followed. Joy raised her eyebrows. Kit continued. Thousands of people worked incredibly hard on that show. Not everything will satisfy everyone. The audience applauded again. Sunny nodded in agreement. That's fair. Joy looked unconvinced. But when fans criticize, aren't they just expressing their opinion? Absolutely. And when I respond, I'm expressing mine. The audience laughed and applauded. Whoopi smiled. Touché. Joy laughed despite herself. Okay, that's fair. But there was still a feeling in the room that the discussion wasn't finished. The audience could sense it. Joy glanced toward Kit again. I think some people see you as defensive when these topics come up. The room suddenly became quiet. Kit's expression changed slightly. Not angry. Not upset. Just more serious. He looked directly at Joy. I don't think defending yourself automatically means you're being defensive. The audience immediately reacted. A few people clapped. Others murmured. Joy stared at him for a moment. Kit continued. If someone says something about your work that you disagree with, you're allowed to explain your perspective. The applause grew louder. Whoopi looked toward the audience. They liked that answer. Joy smiled carefully. But some people might say public figures should simply ignore criticism. Kit nodded. Some people say that. And, he paused. And I think that's easier said than done. The audience applauded again. The conversation had clearly shifted from friendly promotion to something much more personal. For the first time since the interview began, viewers could feel genuine tension building between Kit and Joy. Neither was raising their voice. Neither was being rude. But both were standing their ground. And as the show headed toward commercial break, the audience knew the discussion was only getting started. The applause slowly faded, but the energy in the studio had changed. What started as a routine interview now felt like a genuine debate. Whoopi glanced toward the audience and smiled. We have to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. The cameras cut away. When the show returned, the audience applauded again as Kit settled back into his chair. Whoopi smiled. We're back with Kit Harington. Joy immediately picked up where the conversation had left off. Kit, during the break I was thinking about something. The audience laughed. Sunny smiled. That's dangerous. More laughter followed. Joy grinned. I know my reputation. She turned toward Kit. I keep coming back to this idea of public perception. Kit nodded. Okay. Joy continued. You said you're allowed to defend yourself. Sure. But do you think celebrities sometimes spend too much energy worrying about what strangers think? Kit considered the question. Sometimes, yes. Joy looked surprised. You agree? Absolutely. The audience laughed. Joy smiled. Well, that was easier than I expected. Kit laughed. But that doesn't mean public opinion isn't powerful. Sunny nodded. It affects careers. It affects careers, Kit agreed. It affects opportunities. It affects confidence. The audience listened closely. Kit continued. People often imagine actors are immune to criticism because they have successful careers. That's not reality. A few audience members applauded. Joy leaned forward. But you knew fame came with scrutiny. I did. And you accepted that. I did. Joy shrugged. So why complain about it? The audience reacted immediately. A few people murmured. Whoopi raised an eyebrow. Kit remained calm. I don't think discussing something is the same as complaining. The audience applauded. Joy responded quickly. Some people would disagree. That's okay. The audience laughed. Sunny smiled. I like how calm he stays. Kit laughed. Years of practice. The audience laughed again. Joy wasn't giving up. But let me challenge that. Go ahead. If someone becomes famous, earns millions, gets enormous opportunities, and then talks about how difficult public attention is, some viewers don't have much sympathy. The audience grew quieter. Kit nodded slowly. I understand that perspective. Joy seemed pleased. You do? Of course. The audience listened carefully. Kit continued. There are people facing challenges much bigger than criticism on social media. Sunny nodded. Absolutely. Kit continued. But acknowledging that doesn't erase personal struggles. The audience applauded. Whoopi pointed toward him. That's an important distinction. Joy crossed her arms. But do celebrities sometimes expect too much understanding from the public? Kit smiled. Do television hosts expect too much understanding from the public? The audience exploded with laughter. Even Whoopi leaned back laughing. Joy pointed at him. Now we're getting somewhere. The crowd applauded loudly. Kit laughed. I'm just saying it goes both ways. Joy smiled. Fair enough. For a moment the tension softened. Then Sunny shifted the discussion. I want to ask about something different. Kit nodded. Sure. You've spoken openly about mental health over the years. The audience became attentive again. Sunny continued. That wasn't always common for male actors. Kit nodded. No, it wasn't. Was it difficult? Very. The room became noticeably quieter. Kit spoke carefully. There was a period when I wasn't sure how much I should share. Why? Because once you talk publicly about personal struggles, people begin defining you through them. The audience listened closely. Sunny nodded. That's true. Kit continued. I wanted honesty, but I didn't want every interview to become about my worst moments. The audience applauded softly. Joy jumped in. That's interesting. Kit looked over. Why? Because some people might say you opened that door yourself. The audience reacted immediately. A few gasps could be heard. Sunny looked toward Joy. Whoopi sighed dramatically. Kit paused before answering. I did. Joy waited. But opening a door doesn't mean you lose control of your entire house. The audience erupted into applause. Sunny laughed loudly. Okay, that's a good line. Whoopi nodded. Very good line. Even Joy smiled. I'll give you that one. Kit laughed. The audience continued clapping. For the first time, it felt as though he had fully settled into the discussion. He no longer seemed cautious. He seemed comfortable. Joy noticed it too. You've gotten better at interviews. Kit laughed. That sounds like a compliment and an insult. The audience roared with laughter. Joy pointed at him. Maybe it's both. The crowd cheered. The discussion then moved toward the entertainment industry. Whoopi asked about modern celebrity culture. Everything feels different now. Kit nodded. It absolutely does. How so? Years ago, interviews happened here. He gestured around the studio. Or in magazines. Now everybody has an opinion instantly. The audience nodded. Kit continued. Within minutes. Sometimes before they've even seen the thing they're criticizing. Applause followed. Joy responded. But isn't that democracy? The audience laughed. Kit smiled. I don't think Twitter is democracy. The audience burst into applause and laughter. Sunny nearly spit out her drink laughing. Whoopi pointed at Kit. That's going to end up online. The crowd cheered. Joy laughed despite herself. Okay, fair. The conversation was becoming sharper, but also more entertaining. Then Joy returned to the subject everyone knew she wasn't finished discussing. Can I be honest? The audience laughed immediately. Whoopi covered her face. Oh no. Joy smiled. I think part of the reason people still connect you to Jon Snow is because they haven't seen another role from you that hit them the same way. The audience went quiet. It wasn't hostile, but it was direct. Kit nodded slowly. That's possible. Joy looked surprised by the answer. Really? Sure. The audience listened. Kit continued. Some performances resonate differently. Joy waited. But, but success isn't measured only by whether something becomes a global phenomenon. Applause followed. Kit continued. If that's the standard, almost everyone fails. The audience laughed. Sunny nodded. That's true. Kit continued. Most actors spend their careers chasing meaningful work. Not necessarily the biggest work. The audience applauded again. Joy seemed thoughtful. So you're satisfied with where you are? Kit answered immediately. Yes. The confidence in his voice surprised everyone. The audience applauded. Joy looked at him. No regrets. Kit smiled. Of course I have regrets. The audience laughed. I'm a human being. More laughter followed. But I don't regret my career. The crowd applauded. Whoopi nodded approvingly. I like that answer. Then Joy asked a question that changed the atmosphere again. Do you think people underestimate you? The room became quiet. Kit took a moment, longer than any previous answer. Finally he spoke. Sometimes. Joy leaned forward. Why? Kit looked directly at her. Because people often confuse kindness with weakness. The audience reacted immediately. A wave of applause spread through the studio. Joy looked surprised. Kit continued. If you're not constantly trying to dominate every room you're in, some people assume you have nothing to say. The applause became louder. Sunny nodded enthusiastically. That's true. Kit continued. And if you're respectful, some people mistake that for lacking confidence. The audience applauded again. Joy folded her arms thoughtfully. Are you talking about Hollywood? Kit smiled. I'm talking about life. The audience cheered. Whoopi laughed. Good save. The discussion had become deeper than anyone expected. What started as questions about acting had evolved into a debate about criticism, fame, confidence, and public judgment. And neither Joy nor Kit seemed ready to move on. As the audience sensed another difficult question coming, the tension returned. Joy glanced down at her notes one more time. Then she looked up. There's one thing I've wanted to ask you all morning. The audience immediately reacted. Kit laughed. That sentence never ends well. The crowd laughed loudly. Joy smiled. It might not. Kit leaned back in his chair. Go ahead. Joy took a breath. And the entire audience suddenly became quiet, waiting to hear what came next. The audience settled into an uneasy silence. Everyone could tell Joy had been building toward something. She looked directly at Kit. All right, here's my question. Kit smiled. I'm bracing myself. The audience laughed. Joy continued. Do you think fans sometimes protect actors from criticism because they like them personally? The room immediately reacted. A few audience members exchanged looks. Sunny raised an eyebrow. Kit thought for a moment. Sometimes. Joy seemed surprised. Again, you agree? Kit laughed. Not every question has to become a fight. The audience laughed and applauded. Joy smiled. That's disappointing television. More laughter followed. Kit continued. I think fans can be protective. That's human nature. Joy nodded. But isn't the opposite also true? Kit asked. What do you mean? Joy leaned forward. People can become overly critical because they decided they don't like someone. The audience murmured. Kit nodded. Absolutely. So which is worse? Kit paused. Neither. Joy looked confused. Neither? No. The audience listened closely. Kit continued. Both are distortions. If someone praises everything you do, that's not useful. If someone attacks everything you do, that's not useful either. Applause broke out across the studio. Whoopi nodded. That's fair. Sunny agreed. Very fair. Joy smiled slightly. So you're saying balance matters. Exactly. The discussion appeared calm again. Then Joy shifted directions. You know, one thing that always fascinates me is celebrity image. Kit nodded. Okay. Joy continued. People think they know famous actors. They watch interviews. They follow social media. They read articles. The audience listened. But they don't actually know you. Kit nodded. Correct. Joy looked at him carefully. So who is the biggest misconception about Kit Harington? The audience became attentive. Kit laughed. Just one. The crowd laughed with him. Joy smiled. Start with one. Kit thought for several seconds. Then answered. That I'm serious all the time. The audience laughed. Sunny immediately pointed at him. I was going to say that. More laughter followed. Kit smiled. It's probably because of Jon Snow. Joy nodded. That character wasn't exactly known for comedy. The audience laughed. Kit continued. but people often assume reserved means unhappy. A few audience members applauded. Kit added, "Sometimes it just means reserved." Whoopi nodded. "People forget that." Joy crossed her arms. "But you've also had moments where you've seemed uncomfortable with fame." Kit nodded. "Sure." Joy pressed. "Do you like being famous?" The audience reacted immediately. That was one of those questions people genuinely wanted answered. Kit smiled. "I like parts of it." Joy waited. "And the parts you don't like?" Kit laughed. Questions like that. The audience erupted. Even Joy laughed. "Fair." The crowd continued laughing. Once things settled down, Kit answered more seriously. "I appreciate what fame has allowed me to do." The audience listened. "I've had opportunities one never imagined. But fame itself isn't really the goal." Sunny nodded. "The work is the goal." "Exactly." The audience applauded. Joy looked thoughtful. "But some people chase fame." "They do. Would you?" Kit answered immediately. "No." The confidence in his answer drew applause. Joy raised an eyebrow. "Not even a little?" Kit shook his head. "I wanted to act. I didn't grow up dreaming about being recognized everywhere." The audience applauded again. Then Joy glanced down at her notes. There was a brief pause. Whoopi noticed it. "Oh no." The audience laughed. Joy smiled. "What?" Whoopi pointed at the papers. "Every time you look at those notes, trouble follows." The crowd burst into laughter. Joy laughed too. "Maybe." Then she turned back toward Kit. "Here's something I've always wondered." Kit smiled cautiously. "That's never good." More laughter. Joy continued. "When actors become famous through one iconic role, do they secretly resent that role later?" The audience instantly became quiet. Sunny leaned back. Even Whoopi looked interested. Kit took a moment. "A few probably do." Joy nodded. "But you don't?" "No." The answer came quickly. The audience applauded. Kit continued. "I owe a lot to that role." Joy looked unconvinced. "Even if it overshadows everything else?" Kit nodded. "Even then." The audience listened carefully. Kit continued. "People sometimes talk about being trapped by success." Joy nodded. "That's exactly what I'm talking about." Kit smiled. "But there are worse problems to have." The audience laughed and applauded. Sunny nodded. "Good point." Joy wasn't finished. "But do you ever get tired of answering the same questions?" Kit laughed. "Of course." The audience laughed with him. "But that's different from resenting the work." The applause returned. Then Joy asked perhaps her most direct question of the day. "Do you think critics have been harder on you than on some of your peers?" The room became noticeably quieter. Kit took a breath. This time he didn't answer immediately. Joy waited. The audience waited. Finally he spoke. "Sometimes." Joy leaned forward. "Why?" Kit looked directly at her. "Because expectations weren't based on who I was." The audience listened closely. They were based on who people imagined I should become. A wave of applause followed. Kit continued. "There's a difference." Sunny nodded. "That's true." Kit added, "If you're constantly being compared to a version of yourself that only exists in someone else's mind, you're always going to fall short." The audience applauded loudly. Whoopi smiled. "That's a strong point." Joy looked thoughtful. For the first time all interview, she didn't jump in immediately. Instead, she sat back. Then she said something unexpected. "You know what?" The audience quieted. "I actually agree with that." A surprised reaction moved through the crowd. Sunny laughed. "Mark the calendar." The audience exploded with laughter. Even Joy laughed. "I'm serious." She looked at Kit. "People create narratives." Kit nodded. "They do." Joy continued. "And sometimes they refuse to let go of them." The audience applauded. For a moment, it seemed as though the disagreement was finally ending. But then Joy added one final thought. "However," the audience immediately laughed. Whoopi threw her hands into the air. "There it is." More laughter erupted. Joy smiled. "What?" Kit laughed. "I knew there was a however coming." The crowd laughed loudly. Joy pointed toward him. "However, I still think public figures need thicker skin." The audience reacted. Some applauded. Others disagreed. Kit smiled. "There it is." Joy smiled back. "I'm just saying." Kit nodded. "And I'm saying most people are more human than the public realizes." The audience applauded loudly. Neither side was backing down. Neither side was angry. But both clearly believed what they were saying. The discussion had evolved into something much bigger than a celebrity interview. It had become a debate about public expectations, criticism, fame, and human nature itself. And as the segment neared its conclusion, everyone could feel one final exchange coming. The audience sat forward. The hosts looked toward Joy. Joy looked toward Kit. And the tension that had been building all morning remained hanging in the air. The audience sat quietly for a moment after Kit's last comment. Then applause rolled through the studio. Whoopi smiled. Well, I think we've officially turned a promotional interview into a philosophy discussion. The audience laughed. Kit laughed too. I wasn't expecting that when I walked out here. Joy grinned. Neither was I. Sunny looked toward Kit. But honestly, I think it's been a good conversation. Kit nodded. So do I. The audience applauded. Whoopi leaned forward. One thing I appreciate is that nobody's been shouting. The audience laughed. Joy pointed across the table. Give us time. More laughter followed. Kit smiled. I think we're doing okay. The crowd applauded again. Whoopi looked toward Kit. Before we wrap up, I want to ask something simple. Kit nodded. Okay. What do you hope people take away from your career? The audience became noticeably quieter. The tone of the conversation shifted. This wasn't a debate question. It was personal. Kit thought for a moment, then answered honestly. I hope people remember the work. The audience listened closely. Not the headlines. Not the rumors. Not the arguments online. The room was silent. Kit continued. I hope they remember the stories. Applause began spreading through the audience. He continued. At the end of the day, that's why I became an actor. The applause grew louder. Sunny smiled. That's a great answer. Joy nodded. That's fair. Kit laughed. I've spent the entire hour trying to earn one of those from you. The audience erupted with laughter. Even Joy laughed. Don't get carried away. The crowd cheered. Whoopi smiled. You know, this conversation actually reminds me of something. The audience quieted. Whoopi continued. People spend a lot of time deciding who celebrities are. Kit nodded. They do. But the truth is, we don't really know people. The audience applauded. Whoopi continued. We know versions of people. A louder round of applause followed. Kit nodded. Exactly. Joy looked thoughtful. And sometimes celebrities only know the public through headlines too. The audience reacted positively. Kit smiled. That's also true. For the first time all interview, there was no disagreement. No challenge. No pushback. Just understanding. Sunny looked around the table. Look at this. The audience laughed. We found common ground. Joy shook her head dramatically. Now nobody will watch. The audience burst into laughter. Kit laughed with them. I think we'll survive. The conversation was winding down, but viewers could still feel the impact of what had happened. This wasn't the explosive confrontation some people expected. It wasn't a screaming match. It wasn't people talking over each other. Instead, it became something that often creates even stronger reactions. A genuine disagreement between two people who refuse to back away from their views. Whoopi looked toward the audience. Let's hear it for Kit. The audience rose into loud applause. Kit smiled and thanked everyone. As the segment ended, the hosts exchanged final handshakes with him. The cameras pulled back. The audience continued cheering. And just like that, the interview was over. But the conversation was far from finished. Within minutes, clips from the segment began spreading online. Viewers immediately started debating the exchange. Some people praised Kit for remaining calm under pressure. Others argued that Joy had asked questions many viewers were already thinking. Comments flooded social media platforms. Some viewers wrote that Kit handled every challenge with patience and professionalism. Others said Joy's direct approach made the interview more interesting. Several clips quickly gained attention online. One moment in particular kept appearing in discussions. When Kit said that defending yourself doesn't automatically mean you're being defensive. Many viewers shared that quote repeatedly. Others focused on his statement about people confusing kindness with weakness. That line generated thousands of reactions. Entertainment blogs picked up the story. Talk show viewers debated who made the stronger points. Some believed Kit successfully explained the pressure of public expectations. Others felt Joy's arguments about fame and criticism were equally valid. What made the interview stand out wasn't anger. It was the fact that neither person completely changed their position. They listened. They responded. They challenged each other. And they did it without turning the conversation hostile. Backstage, according to audience members who shared their experiences online, there appeared to be no lingering tension after the cameras stopped rolling. Several attendees posted that Kit was smiling and speaking with the hosts after the segment ended. Others said the atmosphere seemed friendly despite the disagreement viewers had witnessed. That only fueled even more discussion online. People debated whether the tension had been genuine or simply the natural result of two strong personalities discussing complicated topics. The following day, reaction videos began appearing across YouTube. Comment sections filled with opinions. Some viewers supported Kit. Some supported Joy. Many supported both. One common theme appeared repeatedly. People appreciated seeing a disagreement that didn't descend into insults. In an era where television debates often become loud and chaotic, many viewers felt this conversation stood out because both sides actually listened. Days later, clips continued circulating. The interview remained a topic among fans, talk show viewers, and entertainment commentators. And while opinions remained divided, one thing seemed clear. The conversation left an impression. Not because anyone lost their temper. Not because anyone stormed off stage. But because two people sat across from each other, defended their viewpoints, and allowed viewers to decide for themselves. And sometimes those are the moments audiences remember the most. What do you think? Was Kit Harington right to defend himself against criticism? Or did Joy Behar raise fair questions about fame, public perception, and celebrity accountability? Share your opinion in the comments and subscribe to the Star Talks for more real talk show stories.